Hello, welcome to Geeks and Niche. It's episode 79. As usual, I'm Mark.
And I'm Jasmine.
And for the whole month of December, we have decided to scrap what we were going to do before.
Yeah.
And we are going to honor the Spider-Man No Way Home movie, which is, what's it going to be, like 12 days away or something?
It's close.
Yeah.
Very close.
It's honestly like, it's been a whole year.
Yes. No, more than, well, it feels like longer than that. I mean, like everybody is super excited about this movie. The anticipation is insane. So
I know. Well, yeah, I've heard about people selling those tickets for a lot of money.
Yeah.
I like reselling. Anyway, so we're all talking about all things Spidey. And for this episode, we're going to focus on the first trilogy. Well, actually, the first trilogy. Well, the first trilogy it's from Sam Raimi, so his only trilogy.
And spoiler warning. Actually, no, not a spoiler warning. The first trilogy, it's 19 years old. Like, if you have not seen it by now, then what is the matter with you? Seriously, go watch it. But before we get started, if you are watching this on YouTube, please remember to like this video. Here's a button, like the video, and subscribe to our channel. We would really appreciate that. Hey, and if you're feeling so inclined, leave a comment about this episode, about your love of the Spider-Man trilogy or your dislike of the first Spider-Man trilogy. And if you are just listening to this podcast, then thank you as well. And we would really appreciate it if you would leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or Podchaser.
Yeah, do all of those things. Throw me off. I was like, what's going on? I was actually just adjusting my screen a little bit. Anyway, so it's been a while, and we've had a few guests, and we're on our own this week. And actually, we're on our own for the rest of the month. Although we may have a episode at the end of the month, which
an extravaganza of sorts.
Well, we're putting it together at the moment.
Yeah,
haven't quite.
We got some things in the works. Just be patient with us.
The final episode of the year, so I can't believe that's coming up. So,
oh man.
Yeah. So COVID, we won't let COVID stop us now.
Well, I mean, it can't stop us now.
No,
we've come too far, COVID. We're just gonna keep going.
Come too far. So have you before we jump into Spider-Man, have you watched or read anything interesting?
I watched Cowboy Bebop, the live action one.
I've not watched that yet.
I enjoyed it. I know a lot of people are kind of like on the fence about it. I enjoyed it. If you don't compare it frame by frame to the anime, it's just a really enjoyable series. I think there are some parts where they kind of get a little too kitschy, like they're trying to catch that anime vibe too much, and it just kind of doesn't play well in live action. But aside from a couple of those missteps, I mean, I really enjoyed it. I love John Cho, big fan of John Cho. I even loved John Cho in Sleepy Hollow.
He was bad as Hollow.
Yeah, in the first season, yeah.
Oh, okay.
So
I still never watched Sleepy Hollow, so it's something I want to watch.
The first season is so good. After that, it's just kind of like
I hear they killed the main girl or something like two or three seasons later. I'm like,
it was a mess. They shot themselves in the foot because the chemistry between her and Ichabod Crane was off the charts. And when they started focusing more on Katrina, which was Ichabod's wife, it was kind of like, this dynamic doesn't, like, this whole love triangle thing that you guys got going on, it's not really working. And they also did Orlando Jones dirty. So anyway, the first season of Sleepy Hollow is one of the best seasons that of television you could watch. After that, it's
something I want to watch, but
I recommend it. But Cowboy Bebop, it was good. I enjoyed it. I had fun watching it. I watched it all in one sitting, as I am one to do. I think that's pretty much the only thing. The other thing I've been watching, there's an anime that I've been keeping up with week to week, Beyond the Tri-Cornered Window, which is sort of this supernatural anime about this guy who's like weird and has this supernatural power where he can pull ghosts out of time and space. I don't know. It's super weird and kind of like existential. I have a hard time describing it, but I have been enjoying watching it. So that is Beyond the Tri-Cornered Window.
I don't really feel like I've watched. I know this week I kind of watched these films, and I don't think I watched much else. I didn't really much read or watch much else this week. Last week I did watch. I caught up on the episodes that were available of Dexter.
Oh yeah. When I was over at my parents' house for Thanksgiving, my mom was watching Dexter.
The new one.
Yeah.
Yeah, you should definitely watch it. It's very much old style Dexter. Like,
yeah, he's got a lot of voices in his head now, though. Like,
no. It's just one now. Like at the moment, it's just one.
Oh, well, okay.
Like, which is his sister.
Okay. So, yeah.
I don't. I mean, whether or not they pull people in and out, but at the moment, it's just his sister. It's a good way of having. Is it Jennifer Carpenter? Is that her name?
Yeah.
The actress come back. It was a way of getting her back. They should never have killed her off. Well, in fact, they should never have had her fall in love with him and then killed her off. Actually, there is one thing I want to talk about that I watched. I finished Fear the Walking Dead: The World Beyond.
Oh yeah.
So the 2 seasons.
Did it get any better?
No. So. What was it? There was a couple of interesting things that happened in the last sort of 5 or 6 episodes. They introduced Jadis, who I don't know if you know. Jadis is from the main Walking Dead series, where she was like,
was she the trash pile people?
Yeah. So she was like the queen of the trash pile people, and she was the one who saved Rick in the helicopter, and she radioed to save Rick, and she showed up in this as almost a very different character. So, I mean, she is the same character, but she's obviously had a lot of growth elsewhere. So she joined the CRM, and she's now very high up in their military and stuff like that, and running like investigations and things like that. And so that was quite cool. And there was a reference in the final episode about how she bought her way into the CRM by bringing Rick in. They never said Rick's name, but a lady said, I hear you got your way into the CRM by bringing someone with you.
Yeah.
And then
that's a hell of a bargaining chip, though.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So she said something like, and they said that because I don't know if you remember when she took Rick, she radioed to say she had an A or a B, and I can't remember which letter she said, but whatever letter she didn't say would have ended up with Rick getting experimented on. So she said that she deliberately said the other letter, because she said I owed him that much. And but there's no giveaway to Rick, but there was something particularly interesting, and I would say out of all 2 seasons, this was the most interesting thing that happened. Was nothing to do with, that's not entirely true. I would say 90% of the people that we saw, it was nothing really to do with them. So after the titles, you can go on YouTube, people have actually clipped it and put this after credit sequence on YouTube. So do you remember in season 1 of The Walking Dead where Rick and his crew end up at the CDC, and there's some scientist who kills himself? So in this end sequence, you see somebody backing up files, and all the file names are in French. So basically, this whole scene is set in France. And then you see her watching a video of this scientist from the CDC, which, like, obviously it's that guy from season 1, and which obviously he's talking away, and he's talking about what they did and stuff like that. And then this guy comes in behind the woman, and he's speaking French. The whole scene's in French, and they're referencing where all these different teams are. Like, are they in Spain? He goes, whatever. And then she says something about one of the teams was in Ohio, which I assume is referencing that guy from season 1. So he kills her. He shoots this woman because he says something about her having been on the run for the last few years, whatever. He shoots and kills her. Anyway, he goes out and walks off and closes the door, and then you see the dead body sitting in the chair, and then it gets up, and you know how in The Walking Dead zombies are they just slow and all that, you know, they're not really threatening. She gets up and she runs towards the door as a zombie runs, and starts smashing the door like and that's kind of how it ends. So now what's obviously happened is there's obviously been some sort of mutation or whatever to the virus.
Yikes.
And so now are these zombies no longer going to be kind of non-threatening,
slow and dumb? Now we got 28 days later zombies.
well, yeah, or Black Summer does the same thing too.
Ugh.
So now I don't know. Obviously, speculation time. Like, is this just setting that up for Rick's eventual movies that will come out in 10 years' time, or are we actually going to see this within the main Walking Dead series that we'll start to see this? I mean, the main Walking Dead series, I think it's only got like 10 episodes left. So I don't know what's going to happen here. Like,
That'll be interesting. Maybe that's how they'll close it out. Like, it'll be the new dead will be the mutation. So they'll be the ones that are moving fast, like through the hordes of slow moving, old and decrepit zombies. Who knows?
well, yeah. I don't know what's going to happen, but I wonder if this is more a lead up for the movie, like, because I mean, if you're going to have a movie about zombies and all they do is just sort of bob along,
amble about,
yeah, it's not really that scary. Because I've always found the zombies in The Walking Dead to not be very scary. Like, they kind of,
I think it's just like their faces. I hate the zombie makeup. It's so bleh.
Yeah, they don't look nice.
Yeah,
like, they're not appealing. Like,
they're not going to be on the cover of magazines.
I'm not going to take them out for dates or anything. Anyway, but yeah, that was kind of, I watched that this week as well. So, but I think we should probably jump into Spider-Man.
Let's get to it. Oh man, guys, let me just tell you, like, I was obsessed with Spider-Man when this first came out. Like, this poster behind me, I had this poster on my bedroom wall. And then when I went off to college, I had that poster in my college dorm room. Like, I was obsessed with Spider-Man. And like, we used to have all kinds of t-shirts. Me and my friends would like, it was definitely that Spider-Man meme where it's like all these different Spider-Men pointing at each other. Like, I was on campus one day walking to a class and I saw another girl wearing the exact same Spider-Man shirt that I was wearing. And both of us were like, oh my God. Spider-Man was like the shit back in the day. Okay. So like, I love this trilogy. It has a special place in my heart. I love most of this trilogy, I should say.
Yeah. I remember before this film came out, I remember like in the comics, and I think Stan Lee put like an advert. I think it might have been signed off by Stan Lee. It was an advert in one of the Marvel comics, like, or all the comics, that they basically had signed this deal and said Spider-Man will be coming back to the big screen or coming to the big screen. And that was like probably about 2 or 3 years before it came out. So like, they were so pleased with the announcement that, Sony were going to put this together. So it was quite exciting as a comic fan to finally see something like this go to the big screen. So
I feel like this one is a very, very like early precursor to the actual MCU that we have, even though this is not, this is not Marvel as we know it now, but like, this film was completely different from the previous hero films that had come out. Like, this film was nothing like any of the Batman movies that were out at the time. Like, this movie was so different, and it was so much lighter in terms of tone than any other superhero film that we had gotten. Like, it wasn't heavy like Blade, it wasn't heavy like Batman. It was just so fun, and it brought like a whole different energy to superhero films to me.
Yeah, I think obviously we'll break it down as we go through, but I think that how connected the three of them were as well, and seeing the sort of character journeys. I think they rushed the character journey a little bit in the first movie, but I think kind of, you did see the progression of these characters from the first scene on the bus to where the film finishes, or where the third film finishes. So I think that was really cool, because you can get a lot of these sort of ongoing film franchises. Like, I mean, I know Mission Impossible has become a little bit more. It's become a little bit more linked in terms of stories more recently. But the first few were very much standalone entries, and you get a lot of movies where they're ongoing franchises and they're standalone. Well, a lot of the time,
like
pre-Craig. Well, I was about to say pre-Craig. Daniel Craig. I was going to say something else. But previous to Daniel Craig, like, his films are very linked, but him, they were pretty much standalone films. I know the Pierce Brosnan films slightly like had some crossover, but that was just more like they might bring a character back, but the stories didn't really.
Yeah, no, the stories were not connected at all. At all. By the way, GoldenEye, best Bond film. Fight me. All right. So, Spider-Man Trilogy. The trilogy started in 2002. The studio is Sony. Director, Sam Raimi, for all three of these first films. Screenwriters include David Kopp, Alvin Sargent, Sam Raimi, Ivan Raimi, Alfred Goh, Miles Millar, and Michael Chabon. All through, it's all mixed up. They didn't all write on each film, but those are all of the screenwriters and story creators for this trilogy. It stars Tobey Maguire as Peter Parker, Kirsten Dunst as Mary Jane Watson, James Franco as Harry Osborn, right? Yeah. Willem Dafoe as the Green Goblin. Rosemary Harris was Aunt May. Alfred Molina as Doc Ock. J.K. Simmons. J.K. Simmons is so perfect in these films. J.K. Simmons. What is his name? J. Jonah Jameson.
I went blank for a second then as well. I was like, what?
Elizabeth Banks is in here. I can't remember her character's name. Parker?
Oh, no. Betty Brown.
Oh, Betty. Okay. Topher Grace, unfortunately, is Venom. Eddie Brock. Bryce Dallas Howard comes in as Gwen Stacy. Thomas Hayden Church plays Sandman. And a ton more people are in these films, including Joe Manganiello as Flash. Flash. Yeah. So dude, you're 40. You're playing a high school senior.
I know he's the most I think you can get away with it.
Even back in 2002, it was super awkward when he came on screen for the first time. I was like,
he's bigger than his teacher.
Yeah, you are bigger than everyone. Come on, dude. Nobody would believe that you're in high school. Anyway,
he should have said no to that. He should have said, "No, look, man. I mean, unless it's like a Joey moment, from Friends. I mean, did he just need a role? At that point, no one knew who he was. He was not Deathstroke.
No, or Big Dick Richie. So hey, he's come a long way. That's for sure.
Okay, so
first film released May 2002. It's a summer feature. In the UK, it was a month late. Came out June 14th, 2002. It had a budget of only 139 million, which is quite small for a big blockbuster like this one was. It grossed 825 million. So that's a really that's a pretty good turnaround. Return on investment there. Second film didn't, it's right on its heels. That one was 2 years later in June 2004 for us, and for Mark and his kinfolk on the other side of the ocean, it was July. $200 million budget, and this one grossed 789, which second one, I think I give the second one the edge over the first one. And then there was the one that never happened, but apparently it did happen, which came out again, summer film, May 2007. Budget at the time, it is reported that this film, Spider-Man 3, had the highest production budget of any film that had come out up to 2007. It had a budget of $350 million, and it grossed $895 million. So it definitely made its
$350 million,
yeah, it definitely made its money back, but 350 is high. I think 350 is still high, even in today's standards for a big budget film.
Yeah, I mean 350 compared to so the previous one was 200
and then 139
was 19, so it's like a jump every time. And I think obviously that jump was probably because of Venom and Sandman, having two villains
all of that CGI.
CGI would have been absolutely nuts. Just to think if they'd have just cut one of the villains out, I could see some.
Oh no, you don't say. Yeah, the third one. Yikes.
Yeah. So, okay. So there's 3 films here, but it's like a continuation, really. I feel.
Yeah.
I would say that, like I said earlier, the character journeys are pretty much across the board. I think that was something that I I quite liked the fact that, say, with Mary Jane Watson, for instance, and Peter Parker's journey of getting their relationship together took 2 films. Although I was really disappointed they got undone really quickly into the third one. Considering we spent 2 films getting these 2 together, and then we undid it so quickly. So
it all goes to hell real fast.
But yeah, so summary of the first one, basically, it's a film that I think that everybody needed, that we don't need now, hence why they skipped it for Tom Holland. It was the origin story. So Spider-Man 1 was we had all the formula characters, you know, the bully and Flash and his friends. We had rich boy Harry Osborn. We had girl next door Mary Jane Watson. We had obviously Peter Parker, and all the mechanics are there. Very quickly, we see Peter Parker is the school nerd. He gets picked on. Harry Osborn's got a slight edge on him in terms of coolness, but they're sort of grouped together. I'd love to know how those 2 actually became friends. And Peter gets bitten by a spider very quickly and it's a very
cute, very colorful spider.
Yeah. And then he becomes Spider-Man. Unfortunately, he decides, as we all know, he wants to make some money out of it because he wants to buy a car and impress Mary Jane Watson, or MJ. And he does the usual, which we all know. If you know the story of Spider-Man, he lets the guy go who, when he wins the contest for the wrestling, he gets shortchanged by the manager. Somebody decides to rob the manager and he lets him go and says, not my problem. Unfortunately, that guy kills his uncle, and therefore
poor Uncle Ben.
And we get the tale, or we get the famous quote, with great power comes great responsibility. Anyway, so we then follow through. I think we kind of like, it feels to me like Spider-Man 1 is set over like 2 or 3 years. That's how it feels to me.
It does feel like it covers a lot of time.
Because they jump in and out throughout that film. Like, you know, they show them at school, then they show them like, you know, trying to make it in the city. They show them living in apartments, and and even Norman Osborn's journey with his, you know, all of his technology and the government and stuff like that. Things like that don't happen overnight. Those things can take 6 months, sorry, not 6 months. They can take months and years to put these kind of things together. So there was a lot going on, but I do think they handled it quite well in terms of the jumping from different points. So
because they skip over the stuff that you don't care about. So it's like, I don't care about your high school graduation, and I don't care about, I don't care about all of the little day-to-day things.
I'd like to have seen Peter Parker be in high school for this first movie, though. I think they could have slowed that down. Although I don't want to criticize this movie, because I actually do like all the bits that we see.
I think everybody was too old for that to be believable for very long.
Yeah, especially Flash. So anyway, Green Goblin comes out of this big confrontation.
Willem Dafoe was a great villain.
Great, yeah, amazing. And so then basically the movie ends with, unfortunately, Green Goblin's dead.
Dun.
Harry is not happy about that, clearly.
Nope, because he thinks Spider-Man killed his dad.
Which I think is kind of a cool twist. Well, not twist, but cool character development they do with Harry. So it sets, and you see Harry's journey through 2 and 3, which I think is pretty cool. Anyway, so that's kind of the first one, and we get in the first one though the amazing kiss sequence of Spider-Man being
the upside down kiss, man.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty cool moment. And then the second film is the character journey of Harry is followed along. He's a tortured soul. He does get to find Norman's gear towards the end of the movie. But him and Peter have some sort of confrontational moments throughout.
Yeah, but like it's all the whole memory loss and I don't remember.
That was in the third one.
Oh, that was in the third one?
Yeah. The second one, they just sort of, it's confrontational, but it's not, they haven't fully fallen out, I guess, because he doesn't find out he's Spider-Man till the end. Because basically Harry's so driven by hatred of Spider-Man, because so what happens is obviously with Dr. Octopus, he does a deal anyway, so we're skipping ahead a little bit. So Harry's obviously trying to run Norman's empire, and he's kind of, him and Peter are kind of, although they've got this friction of who is Spider-Man, they're kind of getting on. Peter Parker wants to meet Dr. Octopus because he's writing a paper on him. And we also, Kurt Connors, who we know eventually becomes the Lizard, sort of says to him, to go and do it. Basically says you're intelligent but you're lazy. And Harry's like, well, I can get you into him because he's actually doing a project with me.
Mm-hmm.
And he's there for when it all goes wrong and the experiment ends up killing Dr. Octopus's wife, but also ends up because he's got the octopus things on, and
they get fused
to his spine and plays with his mind and stuff like that.
Yeah,
which there sets up the tale of where Dr. Octopus wants stuff from Harry, like the technology and stuff like that, because he wants to carry on doing his experiment.
Mm-hmm.
And Harry says, look, you get me Peter Parker, dead or alive, I'll do whatever you want. And that's where he brings Spider-Man to him, and then Harry's about to kill Spider-Man, pulls off the mask and realizes it's Peter Parker, and then goes off to that confrontation that leads to Dr. Octopus getting it.
Oh damn, another one bites the dust.
Another villain gets dust. And but during this whole thing as well, we've got Mary Jane Watson's story is that she's potentially getting married to J. Jonah Jameson, and it's all cheesy, but she walks out the wedding in the wedding dress because Peter says he won't be with her throughout the whole film, and she shows up at his apartment and it's like, look, it's my choice. And I did think that was quite a nice moment though, like when Spider-Man does swing off into the city and you just the final frame of Spider-Man 2 is just her face, like in his apartment looking out at him. I did think that was quite a nice sort of end to that movie. And then Spider-Man 3 is it's a wild ride. It's a wild ride. So there's parts when I rewatched this week, I realized that I didn't hate it as much as I used to hate it, but the parts of the movie that I hated, I still really hate.
Yes.
So that's probably the best way of putting this. So Spider-Man 3 is a nightmare of a movie. That
it's a mess.
Like, so I mean, the characterization of Peter Parker is so off even before he gets the symbiote, and then when he gets the symbiote, they make him even worse. So where you spend the movie 1 and 2 with Peter Parker, who is a lovable nerd, a bit cheesy. He's a bit cheesy.
But he's not a prick.
Yeah, and so in the third film, he starts off, like you say, as a prick. Like he is very arrogant. And that's even before he gets the symbiote. He, there's a really cheesy scene where he's getting given the key to the city, and he tells Gwen Stacy to give him a kiss, and that's even before he gets the symbiote. He was basically had somehow woke up and become a jerk. He basically, probably the best way to put it is the fame got to him. Anyway, so the fame gets to Peter, causes a load of disruption in his life before he even gets the symbiote. Then when he gets the symbiote, he creates even more havoc, upsetting Mary Jane even further than he had pre-symbiote. He destroys half of Harry Osborn's face in a fight, like because he doesn't care, he's got the symbiote. And then also, like, to be honest with you, he ends up upsetting Bryce Dallas Howard's character, Gwen Stacy. He uses her to make Mary Jane feel terrible. And when she realizes, actually, I did quite like this moment. When she says that was for her, she actually goes back to Mary Jane and says, I'm sorry, like, which I thought was actually quite a nice moment, that the girl was kind of trying to look out for Mary Jane. So, and then it ends in this terrible confrontation at the end with Spider-Man, Venom, Gwen Stacy, with MJ, Harry, Peter Parker. It's all going nuts. Now, I say terrible, sorry. There was parts of that confrontation even I did like. I liked that Harry came back to save Peter and Mary Jane. I think I liked the fact that you saw this this trio of characters from the very start to the end. Like, I did like that part. So Sandman's journey, I think, was kind of redeemed as well. So, and then obviously Venom gets a chop, and then it ends sort of really in a sad place, I think. Like, so with Mary Jane and Peter kind of, I wouldn't say they reconciled, but they kind of like there could be a reconciliation. That's kind of how I felt.
They left the door open for
it. It was very awkward, but yeah. So I'm kind of trying to summarize that. I mean, and like we said, you should have hopefully watched these films. If you haven't, you should have done.
Yeah, in 2007, like we have no sympathy.
I very awkwardly put that together. So anyway, I know we kind of touched on our thoughts and feelings as we went a little bit there just then, but what are your overall thoughts on these films as a whole?
Loved, except for 3. I have not changed my mind on 3. I don't ever see me changing my mind on 3. Most times I even like to pretend that 3 never happened.
I suppose that's a nice thing to think, because the way 2 ends is that they're together and that's it.
Right. Like 2, it could have ended with 2 and that would have been fine. And the entire story in 3 does not add anything to the trilogy. It doesn't carry the story forward. It doesn't do much at all. So overall, I personally give the second film the edge, just because I enjoyed the dynamic in the second film a lot more. And the scene that is still one of my favorite scenes in all of superhero film is the scene on the train where Doc Ock had messed up the track and Peter Parker has to stop the train from crashing. And in so doing, his mask comes off and every New Yorker on that train is like, yo, man, you saved our lives. We ain't gonna tell nobody. Like, go ahead, put your mask back on and we'll keep this a secret between the 300 of us, like, I love that scene. I know it's cheesy and I know like it's completely unrealistic, but this was a time before everybody had like, smartphones, and they had their camera at the ready all the time. Like it was way before stuff like that happened. So I just thought it was a really sweet gesture, like, especially because Peter had been struggling with, some people painting Spider-Man as this villain when, clearly in his heart of hearts, he knew that that's not what he was trying to do. He wasn't trying to be a vigilante. He was just trying to like help, like, like the line that he always says, friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. And I thought that scene was like the epitome of the, image and message that Peter Parker as Spider-Man tries to get across. It's like, we're in this together. Like, I'm not going to let you guys just roll off a train. And I'm hoping that you do the same for me. So just to see that kind of level of trust between the hero and the citizens was just, again, it's still one of my like favorite scenes. So edge goes to 2. I thought 2 had a sort of not more adult, but like a heavier kind of story to it. The storytelling was a bit tighter in 2. And we had gotten rid of all of the world building character introductions that we had in the first film. So the second film had a little bit more freedom to actually tell a story. And I also thought that Dr. Octopus was a very compelling villain. I liked his reasons better than I liked Green Goblin's reasons, but Willem Dafoe as like a villain, it's hard to top. So I thought Willem Dafoe was a better villain, but I thought Dr. Octopus had a better motive.
I was going to say, in regards to these 3 films, when I was rewatching them this week, I love the first 2, like you said. The third one, it didn't, like I say, hate it as much. I remember when I watched that third film in the cinema, I remember going with a bunch of friends. Actually, I forgot to say this. When I obviously watched all 3 films in the cinema, and the second film is honestly one of the funniest moments of my life. Like, so I went with about 10 friends to the cinema, and got a friend who's a bit crazy. So when so all the trailers that play before the film. So I remember there was 10 of us in a line on the aisle, and I was on one end and he was on the other, and so I didn't notice that he disappeared, right? So anyway, suddenly everyone in the theater, you suddenly you can hear everyone in the theater go quiet, right? Mm-hmm. Like, because everyone's sort of, while they're watching the trailers, they're all chatting a little bit. There's sort of chat while the trailers are going. It's only when the film comes on, everyone kind of shuts up. Well, in most cases. Anyway, so I suddenly realized that everybody towards the front of the theater have gone quiet. And then more and more people going quiet. Like, and then I sort of started to look down the stairs that were next to me, and I could see this guy dressed in a full-on Spider-Man costume, like sort of slowly like moving up the stairs, like, and everyone's like, what the fuck is going on? And it was honestly like a costume like you've got in the background there, like the proper light from the movie. And everyone's like, basically like, what the shit is going on? Like, anyway, he suddenly gets up to me and then he sits next to me. And I was like, looking at this guy, like,
the fuck?
I was like, who the fuck is this? And then suddenly he pulls his mask off, and it's my mate who I thought was sitting down the other end. And I was like, no way. Like, everyone, and then suddenly everyone in the theater was laughing their asses off. It was so funny. And then for the rest of the movie, sat in it. And then afterwards, I remember from the theater, I remember we went driving, and just because we had to drive home anyway. And but we went driving, and he carried on wearing the suit, and people thought it was hilarious. Like, people were like beeping us, whatever. But it was great. It was great. That really added to my viewing experience for number 2.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But like watching number 3, I remember I was so excited to watch number 3. Like, words can't describe it. I was so excited, and when I walked out, it was the same kind of feeling I had from like Justice League, really. Like, yikes. You went in there wanting these heroes,
right?
Like, you know, to deliver. Not just, I mean, you want everybody.
I can promise you, nobody walked into this third film expecting an emo Tobey Maguire to be dancing in all black. Like, nobody. No, there was nobody on the planet that was like, yeah, that's what these Spider-Man films have been missing, a dancing emo asshole.
Yeah, I mean, I walked out of there. I just remember like this whole lull. Like, we were all kind of quiet when we went out. I think it was like, really, have we just watched that? Like, and you kind of like, initially everyone was like, oh, what do you think? What do you think? And I did probably say, yeah, it was good. Like, I probably did say it because I didn't want it to be bad. And then I kind of like spend some time reflecting, and I'm like, no, look, I can't say that it was good because it wasn't good. Like, I want to say it's good because I love Spider-Man and I love these type of films.
Yeah.
And you just hope that every time people do these type of films that they do a good film, and they didn't.
Nope.
So anyway, Spider-Man 1, I loved. I thought it was a brilliant film, absolutely brilliant. Love Spider-Man 2, thought it was absolutely brilliant. I do think the 2 biggest mistakes they made in 1 and 2 is they shouldn't have killed Green Goblin and they shouldn't have killed Dr. Octopus. However, it does look like those things may be changed in No Way Home,
which we'll get to. We'll get to.
But if you forget No Way Home, I do think that is a common mistake that a lot of superhero films make, is to kill the villain off. Shouldn't always kill the villain off. I'm not saying that you should turn every villain into the next Loki, but like,
put them in the floating prison.
Well, yeah, but you should have the ability to pull them back if you need to, without having to say they've been resurrected. Like, I understand you might need to kill some people off, like, for shock value.
Well, a lot of times, though, the way that they do it, it's like it's an accidental death, right? Like,
yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's not like Peter Parker sits there and like strangles people. Like, that would never fly. But like, you know, if in the Batman films, like, they make a very conscious effort, as Batman the character does not want to kill people. Like, that is not his intent. Whereas in these other films, they don't ever really make that clear, and then the villains all wind up dead anyway, you know? Like,
So, but anyway, so Dr. Octopus and Green Goblin, I love both those villains. I honestly like, and I think you said it the other day that Green Goblin is a villain you quote still, like, you know.
It is. Back to formula. Yes, so quote it.
I love it though when he gets really angry, like the emotion in his face.
Oh yeah, that's like Willem Dafoe. Like, he brought so much to that character. And the scene where he's invited over to their house for dinner, for Thanksgiving dinner, and he like tries to eat before Aunt May like blesses the table, and she slaps his hand, and the look on his face when he looks at Aunt May, I'm just like, damn, if looks could kill. And then of course, you know, he kidnapped her later, but still, like, it was definitely like, I would never ever invite that guy over to Thanksgiving dinner. Like, he looks fucking creepy.
Do you know what? You just said Thanksgiving dinner. That's, again, you know how we, like I said, we kept dropping in and out of their lives, really. That was another moment I really loved, was that, like, you see them meet up in Harry and Peter's apartment, and and I do love the fact that throughout the first two movies you get to jump in and out of their lives, and it's not, to me, number one does feel like it's got to be set over, say, a two-year period. Like, that's to me how it's always felt like that. Like, it was,
well, yeah, because he goes from high school to like having a full-time job at the Daily Bugle.
And there's a lot of jumping around. So anyway, the one thing I did really think about when I was rewatching these films was, other than the fact that the third one was really badly put together, was actually Mary Jane Watson's story. Like, one, I don't think they did enough for us there. Like, they didn't really explore much of her background. But I know she talks about her dad being a bit abusive, but I would like to have seen, I don't obviously want to see anyone be abused, I want to be clear about that, but I would like to have seen more explored and her opening up about what happened. I'd like to see more maybe from her point of view. And I kind of felt like her role really was to be Peter Parker's girlfriend. Like, it was to be the love interest throughout these movies. And so I was really disappointed that in the third one, that where we've spent two movies building up to her becoming an actress, that they take that away from her so easily in this film. They really tried to basically shit on her character throughout the third movie. They use her, essentially her character being destroyed, one way or the other, as a way of kind of furthering Peter Parker, rather than like to actually see how she deals with it.
Yes, that's what happens when you don't use women as actual characters. They become set pieces and therefore just objects to further the male lead story.
Well, I would like to have seen by the end of the third one her kind of, I don't know, go for an audition or like whatever. Like, I didn't like the fact that she just got dropped so easily. Like, that was kind of, to me, I was like, how on earth does she get as far as getting the lead role in a Broadway show and then just get dropped like overnight without some sort of testing and stuff like that? I don't know. It was done purely just for the purposes of furthering Peter Parker's journey throughout this movie. So I really didn't like what they did to her, especially towards the end. I liked seeing her growth as in wanting to become an actress. And when the film started, the third one started, and Peter Parker goes to the first opening night, and you see her, and I was like, great, this is like, it's great to see the couple together, she's doing well. And I know in the comics that Peter Parker always has that Parker luck, that something always goes wrong. But I just felt like too much went wrong for Mary Jane. So but anyway, look, as a whole, I love the three films. I don't think they particularly aged that badly. So maybe some CGI problems, and Mary Jane's story, I think, could have been improved. I love the character journey of Harry, though, from posh kid, kind of a little bit unmotivated, and then his journey towards the dark side and his eventual redemption. That part of his redemption in the third film has got to be probably the best part about the third one, is his redemption. So, and the fact that he was there. Why does he get a redemption
arc and Mary Jane doesn't get a complete arc at all?
No. I agree. I don't think that should have not happened, but I like the fact that he did. Like, maybe the reason she didn't is because they were hoping to do a 4, 5, and 6, so maybe that was what was planned.
Maybe,
who knows? Yeah. And maybe because Sam Raimi knew he was saying goodbye to Harry, he was like, okay, well, killing Harry off, so he'll get his redemption arc, and then in 4, 5, and 6, we'll get to see Mary Jane become the actress that she's meant to be. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe Sam Raimi had nothing decent planned. Who knows?
The world will never know at this point, right?
Yeah. Well, maybe we will find out soon. So maybe we will find out in 12 days' time. So,
we'll see.
Yeah. Anyway, is there anything about these movies that make you think that they're, or why do you think they're so iconic?
Why? I think Spider-Man. I mean, I think it's just that character. He's always been such a beloved character. And at the time, like, this was an it cast, like Kirsten Dunst was in, James Franco was in, Tobey Maguire was up and coming. Like, it was golden, and everybody meshed well together. The suit is iconic. Like, I don't know. Clearly, I love this. This is probably still, other than Miles Morales' black suit, like this is still my favorite Spider-Man suit.
I think there's so many key moments in here, like the Mary Jane kiss with Spider-Man upside down. That upside down kiss was like, I mean,
people have recreated that like over and over and over and over again. Like
that should win like Best Kiss Awards or something.
Oh, it did.
It did. I was about to say if it hasn't, like,
it did at the MTV Movie Awards. Of course, it did. Best Kiss. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I also think like it's at the time, Tobey Maguire was perfect. He was the epitome of everything that you think of when you think of Peter Parker. He was charming. He was nerdy. He was like an underdog, like everything about him, you know, he just fit the role so perfectly. And so I think because Tobey embodied the character so well, that's probably what was able to carry this trilogy the way that it has. Like, I want to say that this trilogy has legs. More people talk about this trilogy than anyone ever talks about the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man films. You know, and Tom Holland has become popular because Tom Holland was the first time that we were able to get a Spider-Man in the MCU. But Tobey Spider-Man kind of supersedes that. And I think that you still see a lot of these kinds of sequences in films to this day. Like I said, because this film was the first one that was very different from the hero franchises that we've had before. So it introduced an entirely new way to tell superhero stories to me. So I think if we hadn't had this film, would we have ever gotten Iron Man?
This wasn't like a cheap film like
no.
Catwoman or I mean, like, you know, it wasn't. Even the Batman films were fairly standalone, like Batman and Batman Returns and that. This was somebody who had a true creative vision behind this franchise and, you know, believed in the characters and wanted to tell a whole story. I hate picking up one and dones, especially in franchises. You want to see characters return and things like that and see where the characters are going. So but there was I don't know, there was just so many, I think, some really good moments, especially the first two. I mean, even I've gone blank here. J.K. Simmons, honestly, what
oh my god, he looked like he walked right off the pages of the comic.
No wonder they brought him back. He there's no one else that could play J. Jonah Jameson.
Also, I think like the fact that Spider-Man is in New York City, like I don't think we can discount the setting either. Like New York City in itself is iconic. So to be able to show a hero in a real city versus like Gotham or Metropolis or anything like that, I think that also kind of helped with this film being or this series of films being as iconic as they are.
Oh yeah, I definitely think New York is like, so we've got PlayStation 4. I was about to say 5. We've got PlayStation 4.
Oh, is that a Santa gift that your girls don't know about yet?
No, we do not have a 5. We do not have a 5. I can assure you we don't have a 5. And I would love there to be a 5 in this house somewhere.
You wake up Christmas morning and it's just there.
I'm not actually that bothered about getting the 5 right now. I don't want to pay that money for a 5. Anyway, so last year when the world really shut down everything, my kids played the Spider-Man game on the PlayStation 4, and my youngest one especially like really loved the fact that it was in New York and kept going to New York. Like she wanted to go to New York because of this, and she's got this whole thing about wanting to go to New York. She's almost 8. And obviously, Jasmine, you know that our plan is to go to New York next year. So but that's mainly because of them, and it is because of the Spider-Man, because of Spider-Man the game.
See, look at that.
So
look at that. Spider-Man inspired kids to want to get on a plane and cross an ocean.
Go to New York, yeah. So
that's crazy.
This movie got rebooted twice, right? So it got rebooted. I mentioned earlier about 4, 5, and 6.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we'll probably talk about that just now. Even though Spider-Man 3 wasn't particularly well received critically or by fans, financially it made a crap load of money.
More money than the first two.
And it would have got an automatic green light. Now, from what I read, there was a 4, 5, and 6. They even entered production. There was a plan to kind of film them all at the same time and to tell one overall narrative. There was scripts written and scripts rewritten, and it was all sounding like it was going in the right direction. But Sony was putting pressure on Sam Raimi to deliver a release date of 2011, I think it was. And in the end, I think they must have just all fallen out of each other, and Sam Raimi just put his hands up and set them off. And that was it. That was the end of the movies. So
Sony some of those talks are coming back, like you said.
Oh, do you know what? I would have no problem if they did 4, 5, and 6 now. Like, I mean, I know they would have to modernize 4, 5, and 6 because it's been a long time, and Kirsten Dunst and Tobey Maguire are a little bit older. But if they were to put them more in a modern setting, maybe like a bit like a Batman Beyond style, you know, a bit older. Maybe they could even do that with Miles. Like, so
yes.
But that would be cool if they brought them back, maybe took the elements of 4, 5, and 6 that they were planning. So I wouldn't want them to bring Miles in straight away. I'd want them to have 4 just to see them get back together and, you know, I don't know, just to like see these characters. So anyway, so we know it got rebooted because of Sam Raimi. Now we're going to talk about next week about Andrew Garfield's movies. I think the reason why that got rebooted is because they were just pure terrible, purely terrible. Like whatever the words aren't coming out of my mouth. But they were
I can't wait. I have not seen the Andrew Garfield films, so this next week will be my first time to see those films.
I saw them both at the cinema, I believe. Anyway, we'll talk about them next week. But anyway, sounds like apparently Tom Holland's movies are not getting another reboot. There's a lot of rumors going around about him coming back for more. But let's be honest, we all knew they would. So
of course,
they'd be silly to get rid of that. But I mean, what are your thoughts on sort of the two reboots that we've seen so far?
I thought it was weird. I thought it was so weird because these first films were so good, -3. To me, the only time that you reboot something is if you think you could have done it better. And even though I haven't seen the films, I don't feel like that was the case with the Andrew Garfield ones. And it's just like, why? Like, we had the third film come out in 2007. Why did we need another Spider-Man? And then to just kind of reset everything. Because this time we're starting with the story with Peter Parker and Gwen Stacy. And, you know, it's just like, I don't know what the aim was. And I don't know why we went there. I mean, with Marvel had been trying to get Spider-Man for a while. I can understand where their films came from. But I don't understand why Sony rebooted its own franchise. I really don't.
I assume it's just to do money, really. So that Amazing Spider-Man came out in 2012, which is a year after they wanted Sam Raimi's movie to come out. So after he walked away, they must have gone, right, let's just start again. So, small-minded. They should have just said, Sam Raimi, look, if they got one out in 2012, they should have said, okay, look, can you do 2012? You know, let's be honest, we haven't.
They should have been flexible, yeah.
Is that what those movies? Is it Pandora? What are they called? Those with the
Avatar?
blue aliens? Avatar, yeah. I mean, that first one came out in 2009. We haven't seen a sequel yet. Like, I don't think we ever will. But
2025.
But they've been talking
There's
about
5 sequels planned. The fuck? Yeah. That's way too many.
But like the fact that apparently that is going to happen, and the fact that the studio have just worked to get that on the timescales they wanted.
Okay, but you think about something. This is a tangent, but think about it this way: Avatar is the highest grossing film like ever, right? Nobody quotes Avatar. Nobody sits around and it's like, hey, it's Saturday afternoon. We don't have anything else to do. Let's watch Avatar. Like, how is it that this film made so much money and it is so forgettable?
I know. I've heard that before. I've heard that whole thing.
It's weird to me. Like I said, I still quote the first Spider-Man. Like, whenever it comes time to like get ready, like if I'm ready to go and I'm waiting on one of my friends, she's like, "Are you ready?" And I'm like, "Bonesaw is ready." And that's like, Bonesaw is the guy that Peter Parker fights in that cage fight, like at the very beginning of the film, like 2002, and I'm still quoting this movie versus Avatar, where it's like, all I remember about Avatar is unobtainium.
Avatar, like they obviously brought in all the 3D cinemas. They spent a lot of money upgrading the cinemas. You had to wear the glasses, the special effects. I think it was a lot to do with that rather than anything else. So, but anyway.
I'd rather have a fun movie that I quote for a long time versus this beautiful, gorgeous thing that I forget as soon as I leave the theater.
Anyway, we'll talk about Avatar another time. So the trilogy of these 3 movies, what's your favorite?
2.
It's number 3, isn't it? 3 is your favorite.
No. In fact, I think Spider-Man 3 could be the only film that could ever possibly be worse than Thor: The Dark World.
Sorry, it's getting late here. Anyway, yeah, like I say, I think if you would seriously edit out chunks of 3, it might be redeemable.
It'd be redeemable if there was no Venom. I think I can get by with Sandman. I would have been fine with Sandman, but Venom, like Topher Grace was miscast as that character in the first place. But also, like, when it came to them using the practical effects for when he was like half in Venom form and half not in Venom form, those fake teeth that they made him wear, it was just like, even back then, like that was bad. Like I will never forget that scene where he's like half transformed and he's having a conversation with Peter, and I'm like, why did we do this? Like, why does he have those freaking teeth in his mouth? This is so bad. This is bad.
Okay, so with the films, I think I'm gonna. I think I'm probably gonna go with number 2 as well, even though I love number 1. They're very close to each other.
Yeah.
But I think I like number 2 because I think it did really well to build on the world building established in number 1, and that we got straight into it. And I loved all of it. Like I say, even the elements, although I miss Willem Dafoe, I love the fact that he had the cameo, like with Harry. So I think number 2 probably is my favorite of them all, that you get back into this world, and it's almost a little bit like, I miss his characters.
Yeah, exactly.
And I want to get back into this world. And I think Dr. Octopus is a great villain, and I love his motivations are poor, I'll be honest. Like his villain motivations are almost on par with Electro's, but he does do a good job of being a villain.
But he sold me on it.
Yeah. He sold me on his
sold me on it, exactly.
Yeah. Actually, so I think that's a nice little header into. Actually, let's do this the other way around. What was your favorite villain? Villain?
It's a toss-up.
It was Venom, wasn't it?
I gotta go. Like, I loved Willem Dafoe. I really, really, really did. But I gotta give it to Doc Ock. I thought Alfred Molina was so, just the way that he like talked. It was the way that he was like the kind of villain that monologues, but like in a good way.
Yeah.
So I really just enjoyed his demeanor. And honestly, like when this film first came out, like I thought that his extra arms were so freaking cool.
Yeah.
I thought they were so cool. Way cooler than Green Goblin's hoverboard. So yeah, I'm giving it to Doc Ock.
For me, in terms of, for the villains, we've got 5 villains. We've got Sandman, we've got Venom, we've got Harry Osborn, Green Goblin, we've got Norman Osborn, Green Goblin, and we've got Dr. Octopus. I mean, if you want to count, the Lizard is on his way, but he's not really there yet. So we see him in 2 and 3, so can't really count him, but he's like a mini villain, like a little one. So to talk about my favorite, before I talk about my favorite, honestly, Venom, like, so when we have Venom and Sandman in number 3, I always hate it when they push too many in. Now, because what you've got to do is you've got to suddenly now world build again, but you've got to world build again with 2 characters,
right? And
you know that inevitably they will team up, like, because that's what they do.
They have to, right?
Yeah. And I think, just be patient. Like, if there's a fan base, you could make more movies,
right?
So anyway, so that's why I'm not too worried about No Way Home bringing back all these characters, like these villains, because we've met them already. We don't need to do the world building.
Yes.
So hopefully people will go back and watch these movies before No Way Home, don't think everybody will. But... So anyway, Venom. When I watched Topher Grace's Venom, not only did I think about how terrible he was as Eddie Brock, how terrible he was as Venom, it made me think that the two Venom movies we've had recently
were good,
are actually good.
Yes, exactly.
When you watch how bad Topher Grace is,
right.
and how you're like, do you know what? These are good Venom movies.
He was so miscast, and honestly, I don't even know who could have played Venom back then, but Topher Grace was not the guy. He was not your guy.
No, he was probably not much bigger than Peter Parker. You needed a big guy to play Eddie Brock. It was bad. So yes. With the Sandman, would he have been strong enough to carry number 3 on his own? Probably not. So maybe they could have reduced that arc, and I've seen this before in movies where they kind of have a villain for the first sort of quarter, and then that hands over. So maybe we could have had Sandman told all in one quarter, and then moved on to maybe actually the Harry Osborn Green Goblin element.
I think if we had Sandman and Harry versus Sandman, Harry, and Eddie,
I think that would have worked better. But whatever. It's too late. So I think Willem Dafoe is my favorite villain. I thought he was brilliant. There's so many good lines. Do what you need to and broom her fast. I can't do that. I can't do that impression. But he was so good. There's honestly so many good lines that he has. He delivers them so well.
Yes.
And I think
he's an excellent bad guy.
He's probably the most anticipated to come back, and that's why I think they've hardly shown anything of him in those No Way Home trailers. So yeah. Anyway, move on from villains. Do you have a favorite character within these movies that isn't a villain?
Ooh, favorite character. Honestly, I feel like this is going to be really stupid, but the guy who was the owner of the pizza place where Peter Parker worked.
Okay,
I'm gonna go with that, because he's just my favorite cameo.
Well, it's a favorite cameo character then, not favorite main.
I mean, main. It would just be Spider-Man, Tobey for sure. All the way.
I know it's difficult to. I think with a movie like this, it's difficult to pick a favorite when the movie's called Spider-Man. So maybe we should say who's your favorite, but not Spider-Man. Anyway, I think it's difficult for me to pick a favorite. I probably would say Kirsten Dunst. Okay. And I was actually thinking about this. I love her in these films. I don't love her journey in the third film. Mm-hmm. I love seeing her journey through 1 and 2 though. And I think we could have done a lot more to dove into her character and found out more about her background. And it seems like she didn't have the happy upbringing that actually Peter Parker had. It seems like Peter Parker probably, other than his parents dying, clearly. And Uncle Ben. Uncle Ben happened when he was older. I meant sort of before the first film started. I think that Uncle Ben and Aunt May brought him up nicely, and he seemed to have a nice life. Where I think actually the girl next door, although she was the pretty popular girl at school, actually had quite a tough life at home. So we didn't really get into that, which I think I would like to see more of. Other than that, I think she did a really good job of going from the sort of pretty popular girl to kind of almost dumping those popular friends that she had, like Flash Thompson, and falling in love with Peter over those 2 movies. I love that journey. And I love seeing her move to becoming an actress. But I didn't like how they took that away from her so quickly. Yeah. That was a bad move, I think. Don't get me wrong. I'm sure the acting world is pretty cutthroat, but I would like to have seen her not just instantly go straight to waitress mode.
Yeah.
I'd like to see her try to go for more auditions and things like that. So,
gotta pay those New York bills, man.
So I was thinking after I saw these films, I was like, have I seen Kirsten Dunst in anything else? I was like, of course I have. What? Bring it on. Like the whole, no, I was thinking what else have I seen her in?
Interview with the Vampire?
Yeah, no. Interview with the Vampire. No, I was racking my brain straight away. I was like, okay, so Interview with the Vampire I loved. Bring It On, I've seen 1,000
My God, times. I still quote Bring It On.
Fargo season 2, and she was really good in that. But I can't think of seeing many other things that she's in. I know I've not seen Wimbledon. You probably have.
Have not.
Really? You love tennis?
I am not a Kirsten Dunst fan.
Like, oh no, I'm not a fanboy. Like, as in, I need to see everything she's in. So that's probably why. But she's been in things that I like. So I liked the first 2 seasons of Fargo. I loved Vampire Diaries.
Interview with the Vampire is a fantastic film.
Yeah, Interview with the Vampire. And Bring It On is just so good. It's so funny. And I'll be honest with you, after I finished the third one, I put Bring It On. I didn't watch it all. I watched like the first half an hour or something. And I was like, oh, she's actually like, it's like, she's a great actress. Like the difference in character and how she handles humor and Bring It On is great. So, and even in Fargo, how she handles essentially being a murderer, like in number 3, is quite. And I remember her accent in the second season was just very different from what I've normally heard her speak like. So, I think Kirsten Dunst actually should get a lot more work, if I'm honest. So that's me. Right. So we're getting some villains back. Now we know we're getting Sandman back. We know we're getting Green Goblin back. We know we're getting
Doc Ock and Electro.
No, but Electro's from Amazing. So I'm talking
right.
This one, yeah. Would you be happy to see Topher Grace come back?
Not a chance.
Even if they kill him off again.
I really hope that they don't bring him in as Venom. I really don't.
But if they did bring him back,
Please
would
don't.
you want to see? Would you want to see the other Venom that we've got?
A Venom versus Venom.
I mean, that's probably not going to happen.
I would like to see Tom Hardy Venom eat Topher Grace's Venom's head. I would like to see that. Yes.
So like a 5-second cameo, like Topher Grace rocks up.
Only if he gets eaten.
And then suddenly you see like Tom Hardy go, "Oh, I like brains," and then just bites his head off.
Yes, now that I would love. Anything less than that, no, thank you.
What was it? F this guy or whatever.
Yeah.
Like,
fuck this guy.
Yeah.
That was such a good line. I love that. That was like one of the only good lines in that film.
I'm so excited to see Willem Dafoe,
me
Green
too.
Goblin come back.
He's the one I'm most looking forward to.
I think we've seen quite a bit of Dr. Octopus in the adverts.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that clearly we can have more, but we've seen a little bit to see that he could potentially not be full villain. So I don't know. I think Willem Dafoe though is the character I want to see the most.
Me too.
But I am really hoping that they bring James Franco back. I know people don't like James Franco as much as they did back then, but I would like still to him to come back. Let's separate.
I think everyone is going to be in this film, regardless of what people have said. I think everyone is going to be in this film. I wouldn't even be surprised if Paul Giamatti shows up, which that's next week, but still.
Oh, right, yeah. 12 days, man. That's about 12 days. So, and just to rub it in a little bit, I haven't seen it the day before you on the 15th.
Whatever. I'm gonna have to be off social, like, because I don't want this spoiled. So I'm gonna be like MIA for days before I see it.
Anyway, you wanted to talk about the music.
Well, like, okay, so maybe it's just like me being biased because the 90s and the 2000s is some of my favorite like era of music. But like, I just love the soundtracks. Like, I know people shit on Nickelback all the time.
They do,
but that song Hero from the first Spider-Man film, like, love that song. That song.
I love Hero as well. I've got to be honest. I mean, Nickelback. I think what it is I think Nickelback are like a cheesy like rock band, but people love cheesy rock bands.
Yeah.
I mean, people love Bon Jovi. They're cheesy. Like,
the entire 80s, like
Brian
any kind
Adams,
of hair band from the 80s. Come on.
Brian Adams is cheesy. Like, people love all that as well. Nickelback is cheesy, but
listen,
you know.
I love that song Hero. I do. I make no apologies for it. So for soundtrack of the first film, love it. It takes me back.
No, I love it too. I rewatched the video before we started, and I was like, yeah, actually singing along. I'm a fan.
You're welcome.
I like that other song. I know they got many songs, but I like the other song, Photograph. I quite like that. So anyway, 3 movies. How would you rate each one?
Back then or now?
Well, would it be different?
Yes, very.
Okay, go on then.
Okay, so back then, the first film probably would have gotten a 9. Second film gets a 10.
Oh, you did it out of 10.
Oh, back then. Okay, so first film would have gotten a 4.5. Second film would have gotten a 5.
Right,
and the third film would have gotten a 0.
Right, okay. And then now would you rate them?
Now I would say the first film gets probably a 4. The second film gets a 4.5. And the third film still gets a 0.
Right, okay. The first one, I think back then I loved the first two, so I probably would have just given them both 5s for both films, for both 1 and 2. Like I said, when I walked out of the cinema, I thought it was good, the third one, because I think I was just so disappointed.
Shocked.
I was trying to hide my feelings.
Yes.
Like,
I think you were delusional.
I walked out of there like really like hoping I'd seen a good film, and you couldn't process your feelings of being so disappointed. So I think the moment I got out of my seat and pushed the door, I probably was like, yeah, that was a 3 or a 4. But probably within about an hour or two, it probably settled in that actually that was like a 1. Like,
yeah.
So it went very down very quickly. And anyway, so now I would probably give both 1 and 2 a 4.
Yeah.
I would say that like number 3, I would give a 0 or 1 or whatever for many reasons. Topher Grace. I think Kirsten Dunst's story is a mess. I think Peter Parker's story is a mess.
Yes.
I just think actually just all of it. I think they should probably try and see if they can make a director's edit and get some CGI and maybe refilm some bits and let's just cut Venom out.
Yeah.
Let's just do something.
We could do it. We could do without Venom. I think that the third film here, along with the third X-Men film, has made me so scared of the third film in a series because both of those films were so bad that I pretend that they never happened.
I know Iron Man 3 was terrible. Thor 3 was good though.
Finally. Yeah, that's the only one that flipped it because Thor 1 and 2, good God.
Captain America 3 was good. In fact, Captain America 2 and 3 were really good. I didn't really like one.
Winter Soldier is still up there in my top 5.
We got any other trilogy? Avengers. The Avengers was amazing.
Well, yeah, the second one was shit though.
Yeah, no. Age of Ultron was terrible. But anyway, we digress. So I would give the first 2 are currently from the rewatch 4 out of 5 both, and yeah, I would stick to my 1 for number 3. So
yeah,
that is it.
There you have it.
I'm glad to have rewatched these films though this week. Especially, do you know what? I know it's weird to say.
Back memories.
I'm glad that I rewatched number 3 because I haven't seen it in so long. And like I say, there was a good couple of scenes in there. So
not enough to sit through a whole movie though.
I know. I'm just really hoping though that we see Kirsten Dunst come back and Peter Parker. I just want to see Peter Parker and that on screen and see that they did get married or that it got reconciled.
I'm keeping an open mind that I'm gonna see everybody. That is how I am going into No Way Home. That I am going to see everybody, including Miles Morales.
See, for a while I didn't think that was going to happen, but my mindset is moving I think it's going to be a post-credit. I really do. But I really think that we are going to see an interaction between Tom Holland and someone who is Miles Morales. I think it's going to happen. I think I think the post-credits would probably be the best place for Miles. I think rather than him showing up in a battle and we don't get a chance to see him.
Yes.
I think a post-credits would probably be the better idea.
It would be a way to usher in a totally new Spider-Man era.
So anyway, next episode we will be reviewing the 2 Andrew Garfield movies.
Oh joy.
So, there's some joy in there.
Yeah. So again, like I said, I'm looking forward to it because I've never seen them. So this will be my first time watching those films. I refuse to watch them on purpose because I could not let go of my love of Tobey Maguire. So
that's why I've not watched the third Hellboy film.
Oh yeah. We all have our reasons, right?
They should have brought Ron Perlman back. I don't care. Like, yeah. I just wasn't interested. I was like, I'm not going to see it. I'm not going to pay money. I don't care. Like, they should have made a third one. Like, the only way I'll probably watch that new movie is if you make me. So,
well,
or if I make myself.
Well, when you put it that way, all the crap that you've made me watch.
I might. Do you know what? It'd be annoying if I liked it, but
it's not bad. It's not bad. And don't forget, we did start a second podcast series where we tackle some of the most essential graphic novels of all time. Our 12th Late to the Party book club was Fables, volumes 1 and 2, that came out earlier in November.
November, yeah.
And we were joined by Jennifer from Comics Will Break Your Heart. Our next book club episode, rounding out the year, closing out the year, we are revisiting a series we have already talked about once before. We are taking another look at Scott Pilgrim, this time volumes 2 and 3, and we will be joined by Rockin' Robbie. Oh, just volume 2?
Yeah,
just volume 2. Sorry.
Yeah. No worries. We discussed whether to do 2 and 3. Sorry, so everyone listening knows we discussed whether to do 2 and 3. We're just going to do 2. I was like, it's Christmas.
Oh, that's great. That's homework for me. So
yeah. Just two. So you can read 3 if you want. Anyway, you can follow us on social media. We're Geeks and Nation everywhere. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Say hi.
Yeah, come chat.
Tweet, message, comment.
Anything. Mark is very sociable. I pop in occasionally, but Mark is the guy.
When I'm not tired. Anyway, so.
And you can get this podcast wherever you get your podcast. Google, Podbean, Apple, Spotify. We are everywhere. So please give us a 5-star review and tell your geeky friends.
Merry Christmas.
Good journey.
That too.